everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, the 2007 Marvel comic book superhero film that is based on characters that I absolutely loved in the comics, and by no stretch of the imagination is an amazing film. I do not think this movie has any right whatsoever to be considered one of the great comic book movies of all time. No way. No way. However, I'm actually a defender of this film. I think that there are huge flaws in it, but personally, it's by far my favorite Fantastic Four film, which I think is a very unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people who might even say it's the worst of the group, which I don't understand, because I feel like this movie got more right about the Fantastic Four series than any other movie that has that name in its name. I don't, like I said before, I do not think this movie is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There are some very notable flaws, and I think the two biggest right off the hop are, again, the characters that are the actors who play Reed and Sue. I think just, I mean, Jessica Alba does a horrible job in these movies. I mean, she looks great like usual, but even that isn't all that true, because the blonde does not fit her whatsoever, and the actor who plays Reed I find to be completely lifeless and like has no charisma. And I know, don't get me wrong, the character of Reed Richards from the comics, you know, he's not going to be the most popular guy in any room or whatever, but he's very extremely passionate and will basically move heaven and earth in order to work towards any of his goals and any of his technology and all that. And this character, I feel like, you know, is just all about, you know, I'm gonna have a good time. I mean, there's a moment where he's got his bachelor party where he's dancing that, oh dear lord, the effects, the stupidity, the whole thing. Oh man, that scene is just awful movie. And they have a wedding in this early on, and I did not care whatsoever, and it felt like it was out of nowhere when we left off the previous film. Yes, Reed and Sue were back together, but to have it jump right to their wedding, I thought was bad storytelling. But whatever, at the same time, anything that they do with those two characters I think is probably going to be pretty poor, because I just really feel like they do not have a handle on them whatsoever. I do think there's another very notable flaw in this film, which I will be touching on later, but those two are by far the biggest. I mean, you have Johnny and Ben again back as the Human Torch and the Thing. Apparently I can't think. And again, I find their relationship to be pretty solid, where they're kind of both pranks on one another. It's very cool in the scene where they swap powers. I mean, I thought it was a very convoluted way of making that happen, but still at the same time seeing it on screen was a lot of fun. But after a certain point, I feel like all four of the Fantastic Four really take a backseat in their own film, which you could say necessarily could be a flaw, but at the same time, since I feel like they had not perfected any of those characters to a degree, is almost a bit of a positive. I think there are two characters in this film that they absolutely nailed, which blows me away, because I feel like the director of this movie, Tim Story, who's also responsible for a lot of the story, really didn't understand a lot of the characters in the first film, and even in this film, I feel like he didn't have a good grasp on the characters that I grew up loving, but somehow, out of nowhere, he completely understood two of them. First is Doom. In the first movie, I couldn't stand Doom. I mean, they made him this kind of sullen guy who's very angry, and yes, the character is both of those things, but the way that they did it seemed almost like he was like, a pretty boy teenager who inherited a fortune and all that, and that's not who Doom is. I mean, yes, he has a fortune and all that, but he is brilliant and has this gigantic ego. He's not going to suffer fools lightly. That's just not who the character is, and I felt like they completely missed the point of the character, and then giving him these stupid electricity powers that were weak, and having them involved in their origin. I thought all that was crap, and then all of a sudden in this movie, after a certain point, they just seemed like they completely got him. I mean, he was outthinking everybody left, right, and center. He had everything in the palm of his hand. This moment where he steals the power of the Silver Surfer, I absolutely love. That's something he's done. He's done very similar things in the comics, and it was a very compelling story point in the film. Because I'm not somebody who just says that because that's how something played out in the comics, it's how it has to be in the film. But in this case, it was both accurate to the way that I knew the character from the comics, and also was a fantastic story point. I was blown away by how they portrayed him in this movie. I thought they just completely got him. There was all these moments where he was kind of just waiting on people to come to him so he could mess with them. I just thought that they did a great job on him in this movie, which is amazing after how poorly they bungled it in the previous film. And then the Silver Surfer, I mean, from beginning to end, everything about him I think is absolutely perfect. I mean, the kind of stoic energy that he has to him is absolutely who the character is. I mean, he's just such a noble being, and the way he comes to Earth as like this, basically this harbinger of doom, I thought was absolutely awesome, and just absolutely was the way that they introduced the comic and the character in the comics, and then where he kind of has this realization that he can't do what he's doing, and how he kind of comes over to their side. I mean, all that stuff is just perfect to the comics, perfect to the character as I know him. The visuals of him look absolutely marvelous. I loved everything about the Silver Surfer. I thought that they completely nailed the character, which again, I don't understand how they got these two characters so right in this film, and then in the previous movie got so many things wrong. And like I've touched on the fact that I think they did a pretty good job on Johnny and Ben as the Human Torch and the Thing, but that was just really their interpersonal relationship with one another. I thought that the way they portrayed them overall was perfect. Yet somehow they completely understood these two characters. Then, of course, there is a major disappointment for me as a longtime comic fan. When I found out Galactus was going to be in this movie, I was like, Galactus, awesome! And then the way that they did him, for those of you that know the character, of course, I do understand why they kind of changed things up from the comics. I mean, it'd be kind of hard to swallow him to a certain degree on film, or at least it's hard to imagine swallowing him. He's this gigantic being with this weird long helmet with the, I mean, he's visually he's kind of ridiculous on first blush, right? I do understand that. So I do understand why they might have, chickened out a little bit. But to make him this faceless cloud that comes to Earth to destroy it, I thought was really weak, especially because they have this moment where all of a sudden you see the shadow of the helmet that we all came to know and love in the comics, like over. I mean, where did that shadow come from? What the heck? It's like they wanted to eat their cake and have it too, and it's just weak. I did not care for that change whatsoever. And again, like I said before, I am not dogmatic. If they had changed it in a way that was cool, I would have been okay with it. But Cloud coming, come on, that just sucked. So those are my thoughts on this film. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you're a fan of it, if you hated it, if you feel like I'm completely off base on my portrayal of Silver Surfer and Dr. Doom, whatever. Other than that, please hit that like button, hit that share button. It makes it much more likely that other people come check out this video, which is something I would absolutely love because I love talking films with people. And speaking of which, if you're new here and you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when I put out a new video and you can come check it out. Other than that, have yourself a good day.